I have a real early memory of I think it was on Sesame Street, the teeny little super guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the teeny little super guy.
Teeny little super guy pops right up before your eye. He's no bigger than your thumb. Snap your fingers, here I come.
So that's a pretty early formative memory of creating art. Well, design with a capital D, like the industry, to me, was sort of a natural evolution of just people trying to make sense of their surroundings in a way, Like, I think it's a cool mesh between the utilitarian side of things where you just have information and you need it organized so you can tell what's going on, like signs and lists and just stuff like that. Nothing, there's nothing pretty, there's nothing aesthetic about that. But it's like that kind of thing, plus art, right? Which is the raw aesthetic, I guess. And like where they meet, to me, is design, I think. That is the difference, perhaps, between being an artist and being a designer. I think design, like the lowercase d, is more like, just appreciating the organization around you, talk about things like Fibonacci sequence or golden ratio or stuff like that isn't designed per se. It is just, it's created, it just happens, but there is a flow to it and there's an organization to it. And maybe that's why humans pick up on it and then translate that into the stuff they create, My dad was a graphic designer, right? And so growing up and stuff, it was useful. It wasn't like, it didn't seem like art, I guess. It was his job, right? And so I kind of approach it like that sometimes, like, this is a message I'm trying to get across, or something I'm trying to visualize, or something I'm doing for a client. But it's also a hobby. It's something I do for myself, and it makes me feel good to know that I've taken something that is either difficult to understand or looked really bad, and then made it beautiful, right? So for me, I think art needs to be useful and beautiful. It's not only what I do for a living, but it's also what I do when I get home from work. I'll make another animation, or I do freelance work, or I work for, make music videos and stuff like that, just because I like the challenge of like problem solving, and like it started as nothing, and then it's an idea, and then it's like something you can show someone and you've made it, and I like that. A good example, I guess, would be like data visualization or infographics, taking something dry and you're making it accessible to people who might not otherwise care, right? Even if you take it out of the analytical mindset, right? It could be an emotional function. You're pining for your lost lover, and you need to express that somehow. And in my opinion, you can express that through artistic creation, be it design or painting or music or whatever, and that serves a function. It's getting that out of your head, and into the world. Sometimes I just want to make stuff. Like, I have a hard time saying no when people ask me to do work. I'll complain about all the work I have to do, especially when I take on outside work, when I get home, start working on a music video or something. It's like, when am I not staring at a computer screen, which I don't love? But when I do have those breaks and I'm not doing that kind of stuff, I'm just bored out of my mind, and I'm like, man, I really need to find another project. I think my inspiration is observational more than emotional, at first anyway, and by that I mean other designers and artists that I respect and follow, but also like the history of like the craft, animation specifically, motion graphics, which has a relatively young history, but still goes back further than some people realize, like James Bond intro sequences and Robert Abel crazy commercials, and so there's like a respect for that stuff that I think I get inspiration from through emulation and through just consumption. And then beyond that, just sort of like trying to be observant of your world, I mean, I carry a little notepad with me a lot of the time that I'll write ideas down in, or if I see something interesting, I'll try to I'm not a very good drawer, I'm not a very good sketcher, but just sort of like remember this, remember that, take a picture with my phone, that kind of thing. It's funny because it's not something I do consciously even. But yeah, I definitely surround myself with it. I want You know, I like nature. Most of the stuff I own is brown or gray. You know, I like the earth and being outside. You know, I grew up in a small town with farms and trees and lakes and that kind of thing. And so I think whether I've realized it or not until now, that kind of stuff has come through in my art and into my design, even though it's oftentimes digital. It's oftentimes, you know, relating back to more modern, you know, ideas or clients. But I've gotten to a point now where it's more about, and I'm drawn to like abstract animation and visualization and that kind of thing, and simplicity, you know, like taking an idea that's already complicated and making it simple, or an emotion that's already complicated and making it appear simple. Yeah, you can't walk down the street without running into somebody's logo or somebody's brand. Specifically with what I do with animation, with motion, it's becoming more and more ubiquitous because everyone's got their phone. All, you know, we're either consuming that kind of stuff all the time or it's a part of what we're consuming without realizing. The reason design is worth a damn is just a feeling I get when I see something that's really good. That's a feeling I've always had. And I think now that I'm creating that stuff, the feeling is tenfold better when it's something that's really good that you've created. Even if it's after 20 things you've created that you're frustrated with, you hit that one thing and it looks just like you want it to look. And I don't know, there's no way to really describe how good that is. And you know, you're done, you put it down and there it is. It exists. Didn't used to, now it does.
Sound